I guess I just really miss the cities. That's probably a lot of it. And so I guess in my life, I just try to strive to like give Lexington just a little bit of big city vibe, and do that any way I can. And maybe that's through architecture.
Welcome back to DevelopLex. Today we have the pleasure of having Rebecca Burnworth on, who is an all-star in so many different ways. Restaurateur, architect, visionary, just a go-getter in everything that she does. And we are so happy to be here with you. And
I'm so excited
to peer into the different parts of what you get to do to make the world a cooler place. So,
wow. Gosh, now what do I say?
When you think about your day or week, what are all the different components that go into describing what you get to do?
You know, it's funny you say that about a week, because my husband always says we work 7 days a week somewhere. And then we've been actually taking vacations lately, which is amazing. I didn't take vacations for like 20 years. I just work. So now we're finally finding some balance. But what do I do? Can I start by where I come from? How about that?
Let's do that.
So I am not from Lexington. I was born in Cincinnati, raised near Philadelphia, near New York City, about an hour and a half away. I am very immersed in that, right? So you're think about going to field trips. Are you all from Lexington?
Yes.
Okay.
OG
So going to field
Lexington.
trips in Lexington's like to Ecton Park, right? Or to Woodland Park. And so field trips in big cities are like going to like Washington, D.C., to see all of the monuments, or to Cincinnati was always to the Art Museum, or to the what do we have? The Natural History Museum. We had these giant places. And I think you could literally picture a little kid like just in awe all the time, right? Like there's giant buildings and there's just stuff happening all the time. And I went, after I graduated high school in Allentown, Pennsylvania, so near Philly, near the city. And then I moved to Cleveland in a roundabout way. I traveled for a while after high school, and then moved to Cleveland, and then I moved here. And so I guess when I moved here, I was a little like, wow, there's none of that, like, none of that happening, none of the awe. And I'm sorry, Lexington, that was 30 years ago. Like I said, I'm not that old, but 30 years ago when I moved here, and we were trying to remember the bars, there were 5 bars, which is kind of hilarious to think about now. There's so much. But 5 bars, we had, let me try to do it, Lina's, JDI's. I'm still talking about how this brought me here. But let's see, it was Chukie's, JDI's, Lina's, A1A, and maybe, was it called the Blue Moon? Is that it? On Euclid, it's now Bear and the Butcher. Maybe that was one. But anyway, it was kind of like, I don't know, there weren't that many options. And I think I really was a college student then, so I wasn't going out to like a Roy and Nadine's, like that was kind of really fancy for me. But I don't remember there being, I know there was Deshays. Like if you wanted to go out for a special occasion, I think there weren't too many choices, maybe like 2 or 3 choices for restaurants. And I think that really, I just kind of carried that with me the whole time. I was in architecture school. There you go. That's how I started. So my dad, actually I should go back to this really quickly. My grandfather actually started consulting engineering in the Midwest along with Ralph Anderson, who was Belcan, who was in Lexington. So it's completely crazy that I actually wound up in Lexington. My husband actually rebuilt the Belcan offices, and this is when we put it all together, and I'm like, why is Ralph Anderson's name so familiar? And it was because my father and my grandfather worked with him, because this new industry was from like the late 60s, I think, mid-60s, late 60s, was not really an industry yet. So they all were kind of comparing notes about, what are we doing? This is this consulting engineering thing, which now we don't even question. This is like totally normal. But I grew up around drafting tables. There were drafting tables everywhere at my dad's office, and so I found architecture, and I don't know how that all came together. I guess I just really miss the cities. That's probably a lot of it. And so I guess in my life, I just try to strive to like give Lexington just a little bit of big city vibe, and do that any way I can. And maybe that's through architecture. And then, as you know, I got my real estate license, which is I always say it's a great complement to architecture. I feel like it keeps me looking ahead at what's coming down the road, because there's definitely like this whole thing about like dreaming and then action and then plan, and part of that's planning, and then architecture is part of that. And then I went further in my life by going to work for a general contractor, and that was the best thing I ever did. I worked for Jarbo Construction for a little while, and so adding builder, and now you see, right? It's that dreaming, that designing or planning, and then the making. That to me is just, and then maybe selling it right at the end is just, I love it. I love it. People are like, how do you do so much? But it's all really the same thing to me. It's just one project, just all the phases.
SVN Stone Commercial Real Estate is a full-service commercial real estate firm located in Lexington, Kentucky. Affiliated with the SVN International Network, SVN has over 200 offices across the globe. The SVN Stone team consists of experienced commercial real estate advisors in the heart of the Bluegrass. SVN helps their clients with commercial property sales, leasing, investments, and property management. Let SVN help you with your commercial real estate needs. Check us out at svnstone.com.
Maybe I'm just a control freak.
Well, you have all the components of what the best developers have. I think people are like, hey, are you an engineer? I'm like, no, I'm not that smart. And best stamp I have is a little embosser for some letterhead.
That's awesome.
He does love his embosser.
I love it. That and a good wax
That's great.
stamp.
Yeah.
That is.
I mean, that's kind of fun.
It's scary. You can actually buy embossers online for like $30. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm glad that most people use digital stamps now for
Yeah.
construction docs. But yeah, they're like, are you a finance pro? I'm like, I wear vests, but not exactly. And so it's interesting. You have all the components of what a good developer
I just don't have $1 bazillion. I always joke about that. And I talk to friends who are like, oh yeah, so-and-so gave me some money and I'm over here. And I'm like, why doesn't anyone do that for me? I would love that. We were talking before the mics went live that just some crazy ideas that we actually met in the Webb's 1980s Amazing Boardroom, which is kind of the coolest room in Lexington. I love that they kept it as a time capsule. Have they renovated it yet, by the way?
Not that I'm aware
Okay, good. They shouldn't touch that. But we talked about what to do with the shopping center on Romney. Do you want me to go into detail?
You're welcome to. Or talk
I know you
about
have more questions.
the creations that you're known for in Lexington.
Okay. So creations I'm known for. Well, no, really quickly, I think working for that general contractor, I have to tell you this funny story, and this will kind of bring us to that. But the first day, I was kind of frustrated working for architects. Everybody pretty much was like, all right, little girl, you're just going to go sit in the back room for a couple years and draft. You good with that? And I'm like, not good with that. And after a couple years working, and they were great, I'm not saying that, but it's very hierarchical. Is that a word? That's what I'm looking for. It's very, like, here's the boss, and here's the other boss, and here's the other boss, and then there's the peons. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm just such a dreamer, and probably a space cadet too, ADHD things. But it just was not a good fit. And I went to work for a general contractor, and the first day that I sat down to work for him, he says to me, what do you think makes a good architect? What do you think people want from an architect? And I was like, amazing designs? He's like, no, that's not what they want. They want to be able to get their doors open. And I'm like, okay, how do you do that? And that began this whole journey. That is literally what began this whole journey. He said to me, you have to get to know the building code so well. This is not something they tell architects. They're never like, hey girl, like you got to get to know that building code. No, they're like, you'll get to know it over time. It's sort of intuitive. No, it's not. So I really delved into it. I started this and hounding the building inspectors. So every time I didn't get a permit yet for Jim Tudor, for my boss at Jarboe Construction, he'd go, where's my permit? And I'm like, well, they haven't called me back. And he's like, why not? And I'm like, well, I don't know, I'm waiting for them to call me back. You're what? Waiting? And he's like, no, you're going to go down to their office and you're going to sit there until they give you the answer. So that is how he taught me to get a building permit. And same thing with closing up a job, which is getting your doors open, right? So closing up a job is getting the final certificate of occupancy. And I guess I took it upon myself to get to know the building inspectors, the fire marshals, because they're who's closing out a job, to get to know them so well that I understood how they thought about what they needed, what they wanted to see, that guarantee that everything was done correctly, what they really wanted to see and get that job done so I could get my clients' doors open. And in the course of that I was in their office so dang much that building inspection was like, you need to join CAC. So they actually had me join the Code Administrators Association of Kentucky. So I've been a member of CAC for like 20 years now, I think. And basically I go to classes with all the building inspectors, all the code officials, all of the fire marshals from all over the state. We're just always in class together. They've really taught me everything. They have taught me so much. But it's that I took. And when somebody approached me and said, can you help me with my bar, restaurant, whatever it was? Do you have any guesses what was first? Do you know what the first one was? This is really fun.
The first bar restaurant?
Yeah.
Goodfellas.
No. It was way back in the day at Hugo's.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember Hugo's?
Yeah.
So it was for
that was
Avina
like our
Kiley.
version of a dancing nightclub.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Hugo's.
She
Harvey's
was.
and
She's
Hugo's.
brilliant. She was like, she's Irish, right? So she's
Yeah.
thinking about the things. What do we say? You don't know what you don't know, right? So here's someone from Ireland. It's like, I've seen things in Ireland that we don't have here, and she's like, I'm going to bring an ultra lounge to Lexington. Brilliant. So now we finally have velvet ropes, lines out the door, people dressed to the nines, and what was happening at the same time? Do you remember? Keeneland. You used to be able to drive up to Keeneland, park, and go in for $2. $2. And all of a sudden, I think Keeneland maybe got a different marketing person. Something happened. A couple of things kind of happened at the same time. And this is just like stuff I pay attention to. But the Bourbon Review magazine was kicking up. Keeneland was starting to get a different marketing team that was like, hey, everybody, you want to do something after you go to Hugo's? You come here. Stay dressed to the nines. Like, well, I guess before and after. Keeneland before and then go to Hugo's. But I saw this kind of change happening where it was like, oh, wow. Lexington's getting their shit together and are like, this is who we are. We're bourbon, we're horses. Now we have a couple things to do. Let's keep going. And so I feel like once I helped her get that open, that it just snowballed after that. So it was, and when I say help, I'm going to say help. I mean, when I use that word, what I mean is I had a client that either had like, an interior designer friend that wanted to actually design it. And then when I say help, I just mean help a lot with getting the doors open. But with all the building codes, the drawings, the code compliance part of it as an architect. So I'm also an interior designer to talk about what it is I do. But so I helped with Molly Brooks, Darren Geary. And from then, I think I helped Larry Redmond with Bluegrass Tavern. And then it kind of really started getting interesting when, I don't know if you know this, I think Buster's was maybe after that. I don't really remember, but I think we did Buster's. So as the block was coming down downtown, I remember thinking, now I want you guys to know this. I hate losing historical architecture. I think that is such a loss for heritage. It's a loss for the energy and the intelligence that it took to build those structures, because we don't build them like that anymore. We do not. Those guys were brilliant. I hate to see those go away. But for the block inevitably coming down, I had a lot of opportunity in that. A lot of people came to me and were like, even Joe Rosenberg was like, hey, help me move my store. We moved Buster's, we moved Joe Rosenberg's place. I feel like there were a couple others, but
You're like the downtown whisperer.
Or the code wizard, as I think.
So on my car, here's a good funny story. Dan Wu, when we started working on the distillery district, as we know it, Pepper Campus part of the distillery district, David O'Neill introduced Dan Wu and I, and Dan Wu was kind of like local celeb at the time. I mean, he still is. Come on,
Yeah.
But he had just gotten off of his chef show, right? He was on, what was it?
I don't remember what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So David's like, oh, you guys should meet each other. He's like, this is the amazing Rebecca Burnworth, this is the amazing Dan Wu. Thanks, David O'Neill. And we both were like, with our business cards. And we both had these transparent plastic business cards. And his said like, something like culinary master, something like that. And mine says code wrangler. So we both started laughing about that. But I really, restaurants and bars are very code heavy. And the code wrangling part of it was just really repeating those projects over and over and over. And I just knew those codes so well that it was just in my wheelhouse. And I think the downtown buildings, I mean, there's all sorts of calculations to make it work. And how do we go upstairs without sprinkling? And what kind of, separations, how many hours of ratings do we need in between the floors, all that sort of thing. I just got really good at that. And the fire marshals, dare I say this, I calculated it to where I could figure out how to get assembly on both floors, and they would never give it to me. Even though the worksheet that I had made to do these calculations, the state of Kentucky still uses that sheet. Like, I gave it to them, and I'm like, here, I made this sheet. And they're like, oh, my God. So they use that. The state building inspection uses that. And the fire marshals would not let me have this calculation, because you know what that means. We would have nightclubs on every floor of every downtown building. And they did not want that, which I get. I mean, that's a huge fire hazard. I mean, look at some of our bar fires, not here, but that, we've had in the United States. It's really scary stuff. So I'm sorry, I'm lost in my own thoughts. You have to bring me back now.
Well, that's an interesting thing that I don't know that everybody understands how code heavy restaurants are. And you have to listen to the health department here, and then they are citing the plumbers here, the state plumbing code here, and then you have the regular city codes here, and then you have this old building.
Well, and it starts with, you had mentioned planning, like landscape architecture. Well, definitely not a landscape architect. And I definitely have friends, I have my favorite landscape architects, my favorite attorneys that focus on land use and can help in a zoning zone change and things like that. But as an architect, you kind of have to, or at least I did, I wanted to know, is that really a project, right? Somebody's coming to me and it's like, hey, I want to do this restaurant. And my first thought had to be, I thought, well, can you even do it there? Yeah. And so, I mean, I felt like I would be an awful architect if I was like, yeah, here's my fee for the plans and let's do it. And then get to the end and find out we couldn't even be there. Not that I'm perfect, but we tried to vet that. And the vetting of that, to me, is what helped me get to know the land rules a lot more. And then when I'd reach an impasse, I mean, we found crazy stuff. I found, I don't know, I'm just going to say this generically, but I would have a friend that has a house, and it's next to a downtown restaurant, and they wanted to put an addition on the back of their house. Well, that requires a setback, right? So you have to come, well, with the setbacks, we could only put like a 2-foot addition on this house. And so I called my buddy landscape architect, and I'm like, hey, like, can you look into this for me? Can you chase down deeds, et cetera? He's like, yep. So he comes back to me and he's like, you're not going to believe this, but they own all the way out to the next street behind them. There's a deed restriction that someone placed where they leased the back part of their backyard to the neighboring restaurant for 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the stuff you find downtown. It's crazy. Like, whenever I go, like, see that there might be an alley or something, and it looks like maybe it's part of, I always call a landscape architect or a surveyor, could chase that down too. But to look at old deeds, even on my property at my office on Plunkett Street, same thing. I think I'll just say the neighbors were like, hey, you're not going to put a restaurant in here, right? Because the pipes are, coming through our yard and you don't even have an easement. I'm like, oh, okay. So I called my favorite surveyor and I'm like, hey, like, does this sound right? That doesn't sound right. And of course we chased back the deeds and found where somebody had given an easement to me to put stuff through their yard. So that's, you never know what you're going to find downtown.
Craftsman Contractors is Central Kentucky's one-stop shop for roofing, windows, siding, and gutters. CraftsmanContractors.com/contact us will get you straight to the form you need so their team will get in touch about your project. Or just text Steven at 859-246-0108. When they finish your project, windows, siding, gutters, or roofing, you'll see what they mean when they say we build with integrity. Well, I also think as we're trying to fill in to more downtown, find more uses, it's surprising how many of the historic buildings, just even lining Main Street, have second floors that are not the highest and best use, because the second you have a significant renovation, you have to have it be something that's sprinkled. And then it's like you don't, ironically, you can't give a second story to the second story. And that was once an office.
Yeah, wow.
It doesn't have a chance to write another story of
Yeah.
what it could be potentially. So,
Well, that kind of brings me, that's why I was getting excited. Let's talk about Airbnb for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from my standpoint, what I was looking at was forever, I couldn't figure out why landlords were just like, how can I say, just crappy landlords. They would not renovate it. I'm like over here like, let's make everything amazing and beautiful. Come on. So I couldn't figure out why landlords would just like buy a place and just have it not totally amazing for somebody to move into, and kind of slumlords even worse, right? So when Airbnb came along, I was like, oh my gosh, the numbers work. The numbers finally work. Like all of a sudden everybody could come in, renovate a place, have it be totally amazing, and the numbers still worked. Because Airbnb brought probably twice what a rental did. So I was actually really disheartened, and from seeing Lexington really crunch down on that, because I think a lot of the revitalization of many of the downtown adjacent neighborhoods are absolutely because of Airbnb, absolutely. And I hate to see that even stifled at all, because I mean, I've been here 30 years. Like, it's taken a long time to move some of these ships, a long time. Some of these are really big ships. Northside Lexington, big ship to turn. And it's finally, like, no, don't stop it. But, I know we've got some great momentum, and I think things will continue. But, yeah, I hope Airbnb gets to continue. I think that's a fantastic use for some of the second floor units. And I think between residential and assembly on the first floor, there's some challenges, but you don't have to sprinkle the second floor, which is great. And I think as long as you're willing to do different floor or ceiling coatings, you can kind of make it work. Or you can calculate yourself out of some of those things, by putting in some other clever systems, interconnected smoke detectors, fire alarms, things like that will help you lessen that rating.
Yeah.
So,
so obviously you've been around the city for 30 years now, and in that there's a lot of different hats that you've worn. From the architecture and interior design side, and then we'll kind of transition into how you've done that for yourself. But are there like kind of your signatures on any projects? Is there like a typical look?
So, again, I keep making these bigger discussions, but I think what I feel like happened in Lexington was a changing of the guard. And that meant the younger generation was like, ooh, what can we do? But they didn't have any money. And so what does that mean? Cheaper finishes, right? And what are those? It's subway tile and concrete floors. That's really what it is. And so I feel like everybody kind of dubbed me as the girl that what did people said? That I'm the girl that does well with the old things or has the revitalized old look or something like that. And I'm glad that I've also designed other things so that there's not like maybe totally pigeonholed. I do think that I do get sometimes pigeonholed, but really it was just, it was all of us trying to figure out, it was all these amazing visionaries that we have, right? It was Anoteka and I'm trying to think of like kind of some of the first ones, just people coming to me and saying, can you help me with this project? And trying to figure out clever finishes to get kind of a unique look that wasn't too expensive, because these were really, and not speaking of that restaurant, but some of these projects were just like, we have no money. Like Ethereal, I'm so proud that I did the first Ethereal, and it's hilarious. Sorry, not Ethereal, I'm talking about Mirror Twin. Did the first Mirror Twin because they had literally $0. I'm like, all right, guys, let's go find some, what do you call it, pallets. And we got to make pallet tables. And they got like their dad to make pallet tables and to put all the pallet wood on the front of the bar, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they opened, like crazy. And so the second Mirror Twin was actually designed and built when I was opening the Stave, I believe. But it's such a departure. You know, it's like after they made a couple dollars, you know, we can do like 4 things. But that vibe literally is just because we were all, I would say we as the new generation coming in and thinking, what can Lexington be now? What can we do? So, you know, all these, how can I say? All of the last generation is starting to sell off these decrepit properties because nothing was taken care of for so long. And so I saw that the new generation was buying up those properties and saying, what can we do with these? And maybe that's too broad of a statement. I apologize if I offend anyone. But in my book, and especially some of our outlying, like a Winchester, things like that, that is actually happening. And then they're like, well, what can we do with these? So I feel like that vibe was really just to have them afford to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
now I think East End Tap and Table is a nice departure from that. I was really happy to design that. I think they had a nice vision of not found items to put in their place. Boondocks was really fun. I think the Distillery District was, I think what kind of pigeonholed me after I did that and everything. I really, really just wanted to honor the history that was there. Even the color on the wall, like if you go in Goodfellas, right, there's like vermilion on the wall, which is such an industrial, it's almost this color, right? Almost this very industrial green that they painted everything, you know, with subways and things like that back in the day, that's still there on the wall. And I used to joke, maybe this is my look, it's just orange. That orange block in the Distillery District, oh my Lord. I had to design with orange for a couple years. I was just like, I hate orange so much. But no, I hope I didn't get pigeonholed too much. But I just like having fun with the spaces and respecting them and just making it, like we said off camera, talking about, I don't want people to go out and to feel like they're in someone's living room. Because what do we do when we are going out? We get dressed up. What are we doing? We're going out to watch other people and to show ourselves off. And we call that C and B scene, right? Real simple C and B scene. So, and it even comes down to me, sorry, I'm getting a little off topic here, as usual.
Hey, it's your topic. we can get as off topic as you want.
But I think when we go to a restaurant, think about this. When you go to a restaurant, what do you do when you walk in the door? You look around, right? And what are you really thinking about? You're really like, where do I want to sit? And what that really is how am I feeling today? How much do I want to show myself off or sit in the corner, right? So you're like, I'm comfortable enough today to sit in the middle of the restaurant at that really uncomfortable four-top, right? Where there's only one other four-top and everybody else is sitting, hiding along the edge, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll sit there.
Yeah.
Or are you like, no, can we just have a booth, right? Because you want to hide in the corner a little bit more. And it's so like, I think for me, I think about those things, probably like a total weirdo. But I really think it's important in restaurant to give people that sense of like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and give them a lot of options, because I think people just have varying degrees of showing themselves off, basically, or the be seen part of that.
Well, that is 100% anytime you go to Malone's or Jeff Ruby's,
Yeah.
like, you can't go and not be seen by somebody.
It's so fun. So let me talk about the Jeff Ruby's design. Like when I grew up going, so I'm from Cincinnati, right? Mm-hmm. So my dad, like, as special treats, would always take us to like the Precinct or to Jeff Ruby's. And so I grew up knowing that he was kind of a rock star. Like, my dad always talked about him. I probably met him as a kid. But when he opened his doors here, I was so excited. And I went with one of my employees of the Stave, and he used to work for him. So he was like, hey, Jeff, like, the owner of the Stave is Rebecca, and really got to talk. But what I was so enamored by was his restaurant was amazing. This is what I wish, sorry, no offense to all my clients, but, and Tao does do this. She's just like, you carte blanche, like, you do whatever you want. But that is what I'm talking about. That's the outrageous, like, you just do, like, yeah, let's put the biggest chandelier possible in this room. Let's put a blue piano up on that stage. Like, let's have a stage behind the bar. I mean, those are, I wish, if I'm like, hey, let's paint the ceiling red, most folks are like, I don't know about that, you know? And so it is really neat to see, like, somebody just going all out, just being like, yep, whole dining room, just paint it all red.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I love that.
Yeah, and he's built a brand that you kind of expect that when you go, and you expect that in experience as well.
And it's that experience. The C and B scene is so strong.
Yeah,
Does
you
it
don't
really well.
go to Jeff Ruby's just to go and like get a takeout meal. I guess maybe some people do because it's such good food, but it's definitely an experience rather than just sitting in someone's living room and eating a steak or whatever.
And it is all about the experience. I think of my Instagram, because I don't really have a business card anymore because I have so many Instagrams, but my my Burnworth Design Instagram says experiential design, because that's it. That's what we're doing. We're designing experiences.
Yeah.
And not just a restaurant or a bar.
Here's an interesting thing about me, just as a quick aside, a constant topic of me and my wife's marriage is that I will not do takeout. I will not pay. I would rather almost not eat than like go pay for, then go pay for like BHG. Love those guys. They've sat in these chairs, but I won't go and spend $50 on our dinner just to bring it back to our house. I would so much rather just cook if we're doing that.
Or if you do, you want to make an experience out of when you get it home, right? You're like, all right, we're just going to all sit at the table, lights low, let's do it.
Yeah, you know? Because I'm like, I will pay more for this food that I know I can get we live right by Good Foods Co-op. It's like I can go and buy that, or Critchfield's, I can go and buy that same steak or very similar steak and replicate that if I wanted to, but I'm going to pay for the experience, to pay for someone like you to have designed a space along with the owner and designed it. I think it's funny. I'll probably start thinking about the way that I walk into a restaurant now.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Because, I mean, it's a real thing. You are paying for that experience. And whether it's a good or bad one, that's probably why we go back to restaurants more than the food oftentimes.
Yeah.
As I think through now, I would be remiss to not talk about the couple concepts that you have. Did you, like, tell us a little bit about the process maybe of the Stave and getting it to
How
where
did I
it is
go
today.
from designing restaurants to owning
Yeah,
restaurants?
absolutely.
We
And
actually
I
had a
really
client.
definitely want to think design oriented in that as well. We can talk operations for sure, but
Yeah.
like I mean, I've been in the Stave, absolutely great experience.
Thank you.
And the food is amazing, but like the whole experience is amazing.
Yeah,
So I would love to
thank
talk
you.
about that a little bit.
I think, well, it started with actually a client of ours that we were designing a restaurant for and building it, because and I should mention that too, my husband builds a lot of these restaurants, so like Buddha Lounge and East End Tap and Table and Boondogs and the latest Ethereals, all the Crank and Boom, well, no, the latest Crank and Booms. He's built all of those, and I think it started with a client that was like, hey, you should come look at this place with us. And I was like, you're crazy. I'm like, we're so busy. You're so busy. You're about to open a restaurant. And long story short, it was actually kind of a friend that took me to Castle and Key one day. I didn't even think about this place that our clients had told us about. And on the trip to Castle and Key, I saw it. And I was like, no way. Like, it's just sitting right there, like totally empty, abandoned for 4 years. And which it also has a kind of interesting history. But I got to go down to Castle and Key, met Marianne, met all the characters at Castle and Key, what they were trying to do. So they weren't open yet. This was August of 2016 that I went down there and I was like, wow, 17. Yeah, 2017 that we went down there. And so Castle and Key wasn't open yet, still kind of in shambles. And we said, okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about getting this building. And long story short, they actually were like, hey, we're not going to continue. We're not going to do restaurant. And Eric and I were like, all right, what do we do? Okay, do we just keep going and we own a restaurant now? Okay. I mean, I always joke that we accidentally own a restaurant. It was literally like that. And we just went for it. And I guess we just, you know what, it was probably that we were scared shitless, that we were like, all right, we have to make this the best thing ever. You know what I mean? Like, we just like poured our hearts into it and really wanted to create that experience. So if you go to the Stave Instagram, the Stave Kentucky, and you go all the way down the bottom, there's before pictures. And that's really fun because it's really just a boilerplate metal building, and we just kind of, wanted to make it amazing. I actually talked to a lot of tour guides about what was needed on the Bourbon Trail. And I, at that time, didn't really have a good idea of really what the Bourbon Trail was. That was back in the day when we were like, this Bourbon Trail is growing every year. This is amazing. So we really didn't know, and they were just like, we just want something authentic. Okay, let me tell you. If you tell a designer a really powerful word like that, we just go.
Yeah.
So authentic was really my word. And when we found our original chef, he knew exactly what to do. And I think he really set us on the path to the cuisine that I had in mind. We even sat there one day at my desk and I'm like, I just want like homemade pies. And he's like, yes, exactly. Like, we were both on the same page about, we didn't really want it to be country casual food. We didn't want it to be snooty, pretentious food. But what we both understood was we were trying to present Kentucky, and we wanted to do it in a really nice way. And I always say, I think the food, as well as the experience, is sneakily sophisticated without being pretentious.
DevelopLex is also sponsored by Community Trust Bank. Hi there, this is Cam Dacey, Commercial Loan Officer at Community Trust Bank and avid DevelopLex and Middle Tech podcast listener. Community Trust offers a wide variety of home loans, commercial loans, and small business loans to suit your financial needs, as well as mobile banking, internet banking, and bill pay. Their friendly and professional staff would love to assist you at one of their 6 Lexington locations. Community Trust Bank is committed to building communities built on trust. Member FDIC, equal housing lender,
Wow, that is a really good.
It's a fine line.
But that's a really good descriptor. Even you talking about like you don't want it to necessarily be like Kentucky, I don't remember what you just said, country.
Yeah.
But it's like there are, I think I had grits when I went there, but it's like elevated grits.
It's like the best grits you ever had.
Exactly. And I think that's a
We
really
want
good descriptor.
people to come out and go, oh my God, how is that here?
Yeah.
And people do. It's really sweet. If I'm in there and all over here, people coming in and they're like, what?
Yeah.
How is this in the middle of nowhere? Which, if you really know our local area, you know it's kind of sneakily in the middle of everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? I'm in Midway, Frankfurt for sales, but we have a lot of fun with that. And I think over time, we've been open 7 years. 7 years in June. I can't believe it. But I think I've had a lot of employees, and this is where the designer part comes in. If you really think about, like, I have to design it every day. Like, I have to guide it and keep it where it's at. Because even little things, like if you get a different chef that's like, oh, beer can chicken, like that can go south really quickly. All of a sudden, we just became that country casual. I had a manager one time I was just like, no, we're not, like, I don't want to play country music. We're not a country bar. We're not, and it almost became that. This was after COVID when we hardly had any staff, and it was, I would just have to really keep an eye on it to make sure, and that's even including the cocktails, right? So even with the cocktails, it's like, I remember this sweet bartender was like, we should get a flaming rum punch. And I'm like, well, let me take you to DevelopLex and show you what Italian cocktails look like and an Italian bar menu. We're on the bourbon trail. Like, I don't even think people ask us for rum. Like, maybe every now and then, but we might have like 1 or 2 rums on the shelf just for fun. But it's really the design part. I'm not even really practicing architecture anymore. So last October, I wrapped up a project, and I promised myself I was just really going to stay at the restaurants and play restaurant. But it's really like I design, chef of the Stave and I get together and design. He's like, here's what I want to do. And I'm like, great. But I also know the history of the Stave and what's successful and what's not. So I guide what he's wanting to do. And he's a creative, and I'm a creative. So I try to honor that as much as possible. But I am the one that literally lays out all the menus, designs all the menus, make sure that the food's fitting with, that we're not having salmon on the menu, because that's not quite what we're about at the Stave. I'd rather have you come, get the burgoo or get, a riff on some classic Kentucky thing. So we even have a shrimp and grits on right now, which is really funny. I feel like a lot of chefs feel like shrimp and grits is kind of like, well, I don't want to do that, because everybody does that. But it is still an opportunity to do something that's your mark, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is your version. And we do get quite a bit of people that someone just wrote it was a religious experience to have. We just got a great review that it was a religious experience to have our shrimp and grits. And that's how we want it.
The way that you describe it, especially with the bourbon trail too, is like, I do think, and I haven't done Castle and Key, I'll be honest. I have heard my wife has, and she said it was an amazing experience. But I have done Woodford, and similar, like, I think it's the unassuming nature of like being like, it kind of feels like out in the boonies of Kentucky when you drive out to Woodford, and you're like, wow. I mean, as you drive down that road from Woodford Reserve to the property, you're like, wow, this is beautiful country. There's the creek running along the side. And it's so unassuming, and then you walk in and it's like an elevated Kentucky. It just kind of, I think that about distillery tours too. It's like you walk in the doors and you're just blown away with hospitality, and that is truly how the Stave feels as well.
Thank you.
So that's cool.
Thank you. And then, like, totally insane people, we decided to start another restaurant 2 years ago.
Yeah. So tell us about that a little bit.
I think during COVID, we were bored, as everybody.
It sounds like you had absolutely nothing going on between architecture and the Stave.
Yeah, just trying to save the Stave. But every now and then we started taking our kids safely to other places, so big cities, because I need a dose of city every now and then. And so we would go, I don't know, we went everywhere. Nashville, I had never been to Nashville. We went to Nashville. Columbus, Cincinnati, Chattanooga. And everywhere we were going, we were seeing these little things like, oh, you could go to this bar and do this other thing. Oh, you can go to this restaurant and then also participate in this. And I kind of started I'm like, this is amazing. And again, we don't know what we don't know, right? So if you're going off and traveling and looking at what cities are doing, really that's just people experiencing a whole different set of, what do you call them? Stimulations, right? A different set of things going on every day. You know, they have different thoughts, and apparently their thoughts were, let's give some people more things to do. And so in a different way. And I think I just read that, and I'm like, this is cool. Like, I was looking at Susan Sarandon's concept called Spin, which is really amazing. And she kind of caters it to each city that she's in. She's in like Chicago, Los Angeles. She's in really big cities. And each one is a little bit different, but they're super sexy, super sophisticated, and it's a freaking ping pong lounge. And it was amazing. And I thought, man, I love that vibe that has that kind of, again, sneakily sophisticated without being pretentious, but just moody. And I love moody spaces. I think I've designed a few. And so I really wanted District 7, and I'll finally tell you and everybody here what District 7 is named after. But we just wanted some place where people could come play. And I wanted it for the moms that could have their kids, with some supervision, play, do the duck pin, which is really easy. We don't need special shoes. You don't have to pick out a bowling ball. Everybody can just walk up and just start playing. Even without the machines being on, you can still just try to get it. Ping pong and golf. I just thought, let's do that. The moms can let their kids, do the thing, and they can get a great cocktail, a great glass of wine, etc. And that's really what it was for. We were actually struggling with naming it. We looked at it's called the Sanborn maps. It's the old insurance maps of Lexington. And on it said the 7th District. And I immediately called Amir Pei, who owns James Pepper, and I'm like, what is this? And I actually also asked Barry Brinegar at RD1, because they're all down there together. And I'm like, were you in the 7th District? What is this? Because William Tarr, RD1 is William Tarr. So they had some history in the 7th District as well. So I'm like, guys, what is this? And they're like, oh, that's what people used to call. So if you look, actually, Barry sent me the map. There's a map of Kentucky and Tennessee, and each one is broken up into districts, and they are bourbon districts. I believe it was before the DSP numbering. So the DSP numbering system came later. They abandoned the districting and went with the DSPs. So this was like early James Pepper campus was in the 7th District. So we decided to call ourselves District 7 to be part of that, to bring that bourbon history, because I wanted the Stave and D7 to be kind of sisters without being the same at all. So we're all on the bourbon trail. I mean, oftentimes when we were designing all the things in the distillery district, the same people that I had for lunch at the Stave would be at Middle Fork for dinner.
Yeah.
So, and I should say too, speaking of Middle Fork, I think I'm really sad that Middle Fork's gone. I really loved when when Tony Higdon bought that building. He called me and he said, I can't even get a permit. Like, can you help me? I don't even know what to do with this building. And I have a couple people interested. So we started walking the building and trying to figure out the patios and try to figure out, how to get permits, how to redo the development plans so that we could actually get a permit. And I forgot what I was going to say. Might have to bring me back.
Well, I do think it's an amazing addition. I mean, do you feel like Lexington was ready for that concept, and how has it gone in your experience thus far?
Thank you. That's actually what I was going for. With the Middle Fork thing, I really thought we could put back, a little bit higher end experience. And we actually started out with a German menu, and not really like all in your face, but a couple German favorites, so Spätzle and Schnitzel. And then I really didn't grow up with those. I'm Pennsylvania Deutsch German, not actually from Germany, but I didn't even grow up eating those. But my chef is German, And so we really had fun with a couple things. But and then we had a pretzel, some pierogies, some things that are a little bit more out there, especially the pretzel. I mean, more embraceable, I should say. But I think just changing cuisines, and you guys probably don't even know this, we started doing barbecue.
I remember.
Because there's no barbecue down in the district.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I can't compete, we were doing bar food unapologetically. I changed it from German to just bar food because we were having trouble selling some of the German fare. And this is the tweaking necessary. But I think that the barbecue is just, it allows us to compete a little bit more. Everybody else around us had bar food, and I just thought, let's just do something totally different. So that's been really fantastic, really, really fun. Weirdly, it's kind of pairing with our new concept. I don't know if you guys even know I did this, but so we had a little bakery off to the side where we did like waffles and things like that, and no one really wanted to go into that space. They just ordered those things off the main menu. And so I told myself, I heard that they're letting out more package licenses with the state, alcohol licenses. If I get one, I'll start a wine bar, and I'll be able to sell wine bottles to people coming to the Bourbon Trail. So I got one. So I got one about this time last year, and we started a wine bar, and it's actually called Book Club. So book club is where all the ladies go to drink wine. We talk about the books sometimes, but we're all drinking wine together. So if your wife goes to book club, that's what she's doing.
Yeah,
But
she
and
does
especially
go to
at my
a
book club. But we are trying to have wines with a purpose. So these are wines that are not necessarily, what's the word is everybody, natural wines. They're not really all like that. But they're lower intervention wines. Some are super biodynamic, all, from vineyards that are doing everything just on site, right? All the way to people that are just trying not to put as many sulfites in their wine. So really, we have European wines. I've got Slovenian wines. I've got Croatian wines. I mean, I'm trying to get I keep calling it the grandkids wine, meaning that it's a generational challenge, just like how we changed Lexington by changing of the guard. I feel like that's happening in wine country. Like if you there's some interesting articles out there about Burgundy, about it's the grandparents, the great grandparents, the parents who never had a chance to leave their vineyard, and now the grandkids, like the millennials, the new generation, they have buddies in New Zealand. They already have been to New Zealand. They went all the way to Chile, and now they're saying, let's change this. Let's not change the tradition totally, but let's move this grape to a higher elevation. Let's try to not put as many chemicals in. Let's try to do all of these things. So I feel like the wines that we are getting are the ones that, like I said, wines with a purpose. They're so great. You should come in and try.
So with what you've seen in the past 20-something years of Lexington, what do you see is possible in the next 20? Or what are you excited for?
I hope that we continue with the inclusivity, and I hope we continue to embrace diversity. I think we have a little bit to go on that, just being from big cities, and being especially from the Northeast, which is, one of the original 13 colonies. It's a melting pot, a lot more than we have here. And I hope that we keep retaining the people. I think that we've all made an exciting Lexington, and that making an exciting Lexington affords us people staying here. So all these people we're educating at this wonderful university we have are now staying, and that's amazing. And I hope that continues. I hope that I can see that we have a core group with Visit Lex. We have these amazing entrepreneurs. If we continue with that, we're just going to be amazing. And I think I think we're all looking at ways that other larger cities have been developed, and we're actually trying not to do that, right? We're trying to be just a little bit less aggressive about development. But we met talking about a grocery store, picking it apart into, kind of a cool brewery concept with a bunch of other commercial slots. But I just want to keep dreaming. I hope that, I don't know, I'm not that big, but if I could inspire other people to just dream, I think let's just keep putting people in cool spaces and just have everybody, I don't know, hang out. I don't know what I'm trying to do. Or just let's all get together,
So,
chat about Lexington.
and to wrap up, if somebody were to give you the millions of dollars to dream the biggest
Oh
project,
my gosh.
what is that one project?
A
I think
one project,
bazillion was maybe even the word you used. If somebody gave you a
bazillion dollars. If I had a bazillion, I'd do a couple different things. One is that building that I was telling you on Main Street. What is it? The
There on Vine Street is the
BB&T building?
BB&T.
BB&T building. That I'd love to see that as like a cool plaza with just restaurant all along glass walls and just be able to drive down. I want to drive down Vine Street and just see people everywhere. It's kind of what I did at Goodfellas. I just wanted to see people like here and here and here and here and just walk into a space and just go, wow. And I kind of want to see that like big city feel, right? Like you're driving down the street and it's like, oh, wow, all these things are happening. That's part of that for me. Even at, here we go, Biscuit Belly.
Yeah.
This is another dream of mine. I really want to make Biscuit Belly into a huge German beer hall and beer garden. Like I want all the neighborhood to be able to come to that location and just have this really activated place. I guess that's probably, yeah. I just want people everywhere and having fun. I guess that's it, right? Like, but it really comes down to like creating city, right? Creating that sense of urbanness, if that's a word.
I love it. It's whenever you know the other folks in the neighborhood is when people make places, I think is what
And
it
we
is.
don't like placelessness. We do not like placelessness. Bad things happen when it's placeless. You don't know your neighbors, moving truck rolls up and it was actually somebody totally taking everything out of that house that they shouldn't have, and you didn't even know your neighbors. So it's important to know neighbors and have a sense of place for sure.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.